Peace. Good morning. Happy Father's Day. I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of the Foul Playland. As always, I am Sir Foul Player of Brooklyn, coming at you live from the East Coast of the United States. I just want to make sure my audio is working, and I'll commence. Audio is working, and I'll commence. Jeez, that sound like that. I hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend. This Sunday is Father's Day, as you may well know. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers, dads out there, my dad in heaven. And very understated responsibility that one has as a father. And sometimes it feels as if it's thankless, but your job as a dad is to be the wall and protection of your house, and sometimes that's a thankless job, but it's necessary. Somebody got to do it, and it's your duty to do so. And I commend you for upholding that duty. And those of you that do raise your families and are great dads, like me. Going on to the political discourse that's been happening. The Kittens, if you come for the Kittens, they're actually on the way down shortly. They're playing with a hair clip. But if you guys are from America, there's been a lot of things happening. I'm going to try to cover as much as I could. There was a bit of political violence that happened in the state of Minnesota. Yesterday, unfortunately, 2 people have perished by way of somebody ending their life with a metal flute. But one of the people that was killed, I think, was the Speaker of the House for Minnesota. And she was actually at a political event a couple hours before the shooting took place. I always said, like, well, and I'm gonna cover that too. But just funky. It seemed as it looked a little bit funky to me at what played out in Minnesota. But I'll get to that later on. There was also the No Kings protests that were happening throughout the country in major cities. Supposedly there was 4,000 different No Kings demonstrations yesterday. I think they're just accounting for any sort of gathering that had registered on a website as accounting for one protest happening somewhere, I guess. Hi, Amy Furman. Glad to see you here. Thank you for commenting too. Now I know my comments work. But I'll discuss that as well. In addition to the Trump parade, as some people were calling it, the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army and the parade that they had, which coincided with Trump's birthday in Washington, D.C. There was also protesters there. I was actually watching videos of that right before I started the stream. I'll talk about that as well. And the escalation in the Middle East, where the strikes are happening between countries for days in a row. I'll be discussing that as well. And the main thing I want to discuss, though, is the domestic politics, and much of what I like, because I'm trying to make a hobby of watch the morning news shows. Now, I'm gonna have some of them playing in the background too, like this week with George Stephanopoulos, I think it's called, and Meet the Press. And it's not because I watch those shows again to be informed of what's happening politically. I watch those shows with the intent that I think that whoever's talking there is going to be trying to lie or sell me on something, and I act accordingly. You know, I don't get disenfranchised if they try to bust a lie on me. But most of what I watch of late being that I have a high distaste for most things liberal is liberal news. I watch more liberal news than anything. Because I know liberals by and large are the ones that are trying to sell me on a line of bull more than anybody. So I want to see how they try to sell it to me in terms of mainstream media. So for the most part, when I watch mainstream media, I only watch liberal news for all intents and purposes. And this is the clips of this skeezy dude Vinman. I'm watching what show is this? Oh, Velchi. But I think he's talking to that creep Vinman, if I remember his face correctly. But they were just showing clips of the parade that happened yesterday. I was watching that parade last night too because the Mets were losing while I was watching that game simultaneously. So I kept going back to the parade, and it took a long. It was a long parade, but interestingly, I was watching the CNN had a stream of the parade in addition to Fox News, whereas Fox News was more of a trying to show more of the parade, and I'm pretty sure in essence they're like using it as a recruitment tool in the sense that maybe Fox News got a little bit of a bag from uh, the U.S. Army, like to run the parade. Maybe CNN too. But where Fox News showed a lot of the people walking the parade and like the event and the pageantry, the CNN stream that also they were both had streams of the parade. So if you looked on the guide, it said um, 250th anniversary parade on both Fox and CNN. So if you were looking in the guide bar, it would say it on both channels. But CNN was showing very, very, very minimal coverage of the actual parade yesterday, but they were showing a ton of coverage on their stream as opposed to the Fox stream where it was just showing the parade. On the CNN stream, it was showing a lot of these No Kings protests that were happening throughout the country. And on these morning shows that I just told you guys that I started watching of late, like Meet the Press and This Morning with George Stephanopoulos, whatever it's called, or This Week with George Stephanopoulos, they were trying to make more of the coverage in regards to a lot of these protests. So the lead story basically had to do with the protests more than anything, which I don't care. I mean, this weekend was a little bit of a. No, I'm not gonna say it was a slow news week because I mean, like we have we're all these things I just mentioned as far as war breaking out, but a lot of effort was put into this No Kings protest in terms of coordination, like and um, money that people are reporting was poured into it as well. In addition to like the fact that like I said, my lady received a text, um, sort of like a recruitment text for that No Kings protest, and and it was unsolicited. And there's also reports that there was money pouring into the No Kings protest. Like some people say up to like 70 million. I've heard reports of over 100 million. And in a lot of these morning news shows, they were selling it as kind of like taking a victory lap because of the coordinated effort. It was the largest coordinated protest in the history of whatever, I don't know. And I did see some crowds like in New York, like I said, like this is my hometown, but there have been protests of late in front of like the courthouse for ICE, and it's like that limited to like downtown New York, but they're not like really big protest in nature. Again, like I think since Eric Adams is up for re-election and he's more aligning himself with Trump, he's not going to allow something like protest for an anti-Trump cause, i.e., my immigrant deportations, to really take root. So he's not really allowing those protests to pop off. And then this weekend with the No Kings protest, my expectation was that since these small-scale protests in New York were already happening at these ICE facilities, that there would be a large No Kings protest in New York yesterday on the eve of No Kings Day, but there wasn't any of that. It was a small gathering in New York City. There was large protest in Los Angeles. I mean, but recently we're having large protests in Los Angeles against deportation. And this No Kings protest seems to be solely a protest of distaste for Trump and a lot of issues that people may think that Trump are aligning with are bringing people out to these protests. Like for instance, like the New York City protests that are happening have like no Mexican like Latin presence. It's mostly liberal whites, and the protests that are happening in Los Angeles, which there's also reports that money is being poured into those as well, it are largely a Latin American Mexican presence. And I guess that's you know the population and logistics. But the cause for the Los Angeles protest seems to be one rooted in mostly deportations, whereas the cause behind the New York City protest, where you see like those Palestinian like head covers or the Arabic head covers, the cause in regards to the New York City protest seems to be more of a free Palestine kind of thing. Um, but the whole No Kings thing that's happening nationwide is basically if you're politically disenfranchised and maybe don't like conservatives or Trump, then make your way out Saturday. And it was, I predicted that there wasn't going to be more than 10,000 people in any of these protests. And my predictions were likely accurate because there was I mean, and even if there was one, it wasn't like, you know, New York City didn't have 10,000 people. And you would expect a hyper liberal city like mine to smash the attendance of anti Trump um, conventions that were happening throughout the country. And frankly, New York City had a very small gathering. But a lot of the people that were there were white women, white old women and white old men, white liberals, and then a smattering of everybody else. And then if there was minorities, a lot of them were women. So it's mostly old white people that are in these anti-Trump protests, in addition to um, it's first old white women, then the second list is old white men, followed by liberal white young women, followed by radicalized liberal college age women, and everybody else. Oh, and rainbows. The rainbow attendance isn't that big, though, and I mean it's probably multi-raced, as far as race goes. Again, rainbow is not a race, but you know, most of the people and I actually saw right before I made this video, there was a stream. I'm actually gonna put it on in the background on YouTube, but by a channel called News, the number two share. So News to Share. Again, that's News number two share. I'm gonna be playing his video in the background, but he was actually recording a anti-Trump parade protest that was happening at the exit or the entrance of where the military personnel were entering to file and march in this military parade that was happening yesterday in DC. So there were counter protesters that showed up, and people were passing by every so often and walking by like with flags, like to taunt them. I mean, like small amounts of people. I'm gonna show it here. But again, what you're seeing though, these counter protesters is it's whites, mostly whites. And again, like a lot of the uniform of the New York protest, by and large, it's like these burqa head wrap things. So you see this in LA too, I guess, showing solidarity with like the Gaza cause, but it's also like a cool look, like the head wrap. Not on this wimp with his Pringle can arms, but again, most of I mean these are all this is the fuzz here, but I'll start from the beginning. Most of the counter protesters to this anti-Trump birthday parade that was happening in DC. Again, is a largely political class that lives in DC anyway, all employed by the government. But and DC is a black city. If you guys don't know, I lived in DC. So for those who may try to school me on something that they didn't experience, I lived in the shit. So can't tell me otherwise. DC is a black city. But the counter protest that's showed up in DC is Pringle arm can man, flimsy white liberals. Not that many old ones here though, but I think this probably took a little bit of coordination. Like if you see this fat blob, he's probably if I had to take a guess, one of the ones coordinating it. And if you read his shirt, it actually says riot. This uh bit of scum there. But most of the people that you see here are kind of like on the younger side, and they probably coordinated this to go to the entrance that I mentioned where the soldiers were entering into. Or maybe this is as far as they let them come. So you had more of a younger group here, but again, mostly women, mostly whites. You have one brown guy here, unidentified brown, but they're college age radicalized white kids for the most part. And this slob with the riot shirt, you know, and he's probably getting a check. He's probably somebody's nephew that works for an NGO or some shit. Who knows? But this is them getting pushed back by the fuzz. Nothing really violent popped off here because there was a large presence of police. Not so large of a presence of anti-protesters. Again, I'm trying to show and be fair and give it as much coverage as I could. You know, but these are disgusting, pasty liberals for the most part. There's not much in the way of. Let me see if I can flip the camera so you get the. Oh no, no, no. Yeah, I just screwed myself up there. Oh, there we go. Now I was trying to shift the camera, but again, you know, you're not seeing a large scale Latino presence or Latinx. You're not seeing a large so-called black presence in these counter protesters. These are college-age kids, for the most part, pasty, non-sunbathed, liberal women and some men. And again, I mean, like this, the source of these counter protests are basically, um, I hate Trump, I hate Trump, I hate Trump, I hate Trump, I hate Trump. And there's been a large amount of people that are on that time as far as, you know, where all they could spew is I hate Trump. And it's been happening for close to 10 years at this stage. So in 2025, a lot of people are kind of like dismissing that. And the loudest of the crowd of distaste for Trump and, you know, are like this, you know, they menace people, like follow behind, like they're basically following this woman because she has a pink MAGA hat, you know, three Weasley men, you know, and this is accepted. I mean, like, and a lot of times too, it's accepted because of emotional reasons, like, oh well, Trump's such a bad person, so like, he should be his some woman wearing a hat like should be harassed. But this is who people align themselves with. And look, I think this is a so-called black man. This guy looks homeless.
Since January 20th. Has it gotten any worse? Who the fuck is behind all this? January 20th. Who has lost a job? I was born in Northeast on 21st Street. I've seen this city change way more than you could ever. If you don't like it, if you don't like America, go back. I was born here. You're not making sense. I was born here. I love America. I'm not listening to who I am just because of America. And keep life.
Yeah, it's a bunch of crazy shit. And again, a lot of this talk is it's being dismissed more and more. Whether you like Trump or not, like, in large part, we're seeing a pivot away from the I hate Trump, I hate Trump, I hate Trump talk, like, and I'm hoping, that because I don't see many conservatives like going after like rainbow people or a Biden voter, let's say. I don't like to say, like, if somebody were to say like there's large scale instances of somebody going after liberals, just off GP. Like, if I'm a Puerto Rican dude, if I were to wear a Trump hat in New York, there's some sort of risk allocated to that. And if something bad were to happen, some like this is where like the pro-Trump people were passing by. But if something bad were to happen to me while I was wearing a Trump hat, it's kind of like baked into the cake. Like, oh well, shouldn't do that. But you don't hear many instances like, if, like, let's say somebody were wearing a rainbow anything or Biden something, and a conservative like were to go upside his head just on the basis of his attire, it'd be like news all over the place. Yeah, so this is and cool too, because I think there was a lot of so-called minorities that were. This guy actually looked sort of rainbowish too. But the people that are passing by are like more Trump fans. I guess they know that they're here at this stage and this anti-protest, so they start making passing by. And again, this is these are fellow Browns like me. These are Browns, Brown pride. That, like, Browns like myself. I'm a Latino, so I'm Latinx, so I'm a fellow Brown. Like those two gentlemen that passed by that also probably preferred Trump to win, like myself. Oh, I got comments. Oh, Bruce Gas, my brother. Salute, brother. It was nothing, just the largest anti-Trump demonstration in the world. Nothing to see here. Keep moving. Yeah, I mean, like, but big Trump, anti-Trump demonstrations that have been happening politically for the last 10 years. And we could all, like I said, recognize that the anti-Trump movement, or basically, you know, hating on Trump just on the basis of he's Trump, there are many people that are pivoting away from that. And the biggest effect in as far as new converts to going from totally anti-MAGA to, you know, not being anti-Trump all the time, the biggest effect is when so-called minorities like myself pivot away from the hyperliberals and join the ranks of, like, thinking conservatively, because there's not many people that are black or Latino, so and so, or so-called, that go from liberal to conservative and then revert back to liberalism. Whereas, like, it never happened, honestly. Like, once they convert, like, that's it. And I mean, like, and they're usually the ones that stick around as far as family building, which is not big in my in the so-called minority, quote unquote, Latinx community. We're not big on family building. So I mean, a lot of the people that are um, pivoting away from that, or a lot of the people that are pivoting away from the whole hyper liberal expectation that minorities are shepherded to politically. A lot of those people are, pro family, or and are never gonna go back into no liberal thinking. I mean, a lot of minorities probably feel duped that we had to somewhat ingest like rainbow talk these past like 10 years. I mean, minorities don't rock with rainbows one iota. I mean, like, and I'm telling you from and coming from like the dance music scene, like in New York City, since I was a kid. I mean, the Party Monster era, um, which was very accepting of the rainbow community in the 90s. And these are not like this is like, you're talking about Limelight, New York City. You couldn't go into Limelight, New York City in the 90s and go beat somebody up on the basis that they were gay. Impossible. The gay dudes would wreck you. But this is like tough New York people that were partying, um, like for or going to these clubs because the music, as far as electronic music, which wasn't being played many places in the 90s. And you know a lot of the rainbow community would go to those clubs and they wouldn't be any problem. Like, they kind of wouldn't play themselves, and people wouldn't play themselves with them. But there were instances where people would try to get froggy with them, and everybody would jump on, like, would jump on the people that would try to bully. Um, so I come from a very liberal perspective, if you will, like, as far as coming up, but in terms of like that debate where it came to so-called minorities and the whole rainbow thing that kind of has been infringed on us in a little bit more dangerous scale, like, and I'll explain that later. Like, a lot of the ones that are waking up from that, or like that are pivoting away into conservatism, are would never let their future generations and whatnot partake in any of that kind of talk, like, or like they're really guarded about that kind of stuff now. So for instance, it would be commonplace, like, when so-called minority conservatives talk about the rainbow issue, where they're very vulgar about it. My so-called black brothers, Puerto Ricans like myself, like, when we're amongst ourselves, and again, you see a large contingent of the people that are here in support of Trump. A lot of them are black or of darker complexion, because identity politics is very, very big with liberals. Again, you look at the liberal side, mostly white, pasty, but they're the biggest when it comes to identity politics. It wouldn't be commonplace for a white liberal to call me an Uncle Tom, like, or something to that effect, because I didn't want Joe Biden or Kamala Harris to win the last election. This is a standard practice in American politics, in spite of the fact that I'm Puerto Rican, you know. But I have been called stuff that sounds as if it's trying to label me racist or something to that effect by what is more likely than not online internet white liberals. And that's again much of what you see here, white liberals. Hype and this sus gentleman. There it is. That's the best that the liberals have to offer. And at times, politically, again, like the last thing I want to be called is racist. I'm Puerto Rican. I'm not gonna say some of my friends are black. Most of my friends are black. And Dominican. I don't even hang out with Puerto Ricans like that. Like as far as coming up in the hood in Brooklyn, and the last couple of years, because I wasn't a Trump guy in 2016. I was out of domestic politics in 2016, to be frank. But the last couple of years, it would be commonplace to have some sort of inference as to being a racist. Oh well, you're gonna vote alongside those racists, like something to that effect, and not all like MAGA or whites are racist. Like get over yourself. Like stop being such a bird. And even if racism exists, like you got to be a real bird to make racism the reason as to why you can't do anything in 2025. You got to be a real coward, especially if you're a man. But you know, it would be commonplace for a white pasty liberal like one of these to infer on the internet, of course, that because I don't agree with the policies of Joe Biden, that I was somehow aligning myself with racists. But we're seeing right now what the best that the liberals of this country have to offer. And do I want to align myself with people that harass old people for wearing a hat or rainbows like this Pringle armed man thing that they just showed there? Like, absolutely not. And I don't align myself with anti-liberal politics because of the fact that there may be racists amongst them. Because there's racist liberals. I mean, like the most people calling me Uncle Tom or something like to that effect have been white liberals. I mean, like, or the most people that see like, oh, well, how could you vote like want to vote for Trump and you're Puerto Rican? Like, they're seeing me for like for my ethnicity in essence. That's the first thing they see, and they're all like by and large, white people. So I don't know how it's acceptable for these people to be race tripping and for them to be the again liberal whites to be the ones to set up where the divides should and shouldn't be in this country. And again, like, and not even accounting for that. A lot of these people are really young. Like, how should they? Like, they're basically telling you what you don't know in most cases. Like, white liberals are basically trying to tell you, basically, oh well, did you not notice this? Like, and try to bring up some news clipping from God knows where, and automatically you're supposed to. If you don't know it, then you're not like an authority, or you shouldn't be speaking on it. Like, shut you down. Like, nah. A lot of people are sick of not being able to really have discourse, and much of the liberals' um, intention, in most part, is to try to silence conversation. Oh, like don't talk to that. He's one of those conservatives like that, like who like people like are talking like that in 2025. Really, in 1990s, like you could talk about anything. It felt like, I mean, like I lived in like the last dope era, and in that era, I mean, like it felt like every conversation was out in the open, and now it seems as if you have to walk around eggshells for weak ass people, and it's kind of like baked into the cake in society, as in well, you don't want to offend this person who in the 90s would have been living in absolute seclusion, or would have just went or would have just ended up in working at V or something to that effect. And no, it's like an emphasis on considering everybody, like, and it shouldn't be the case. I mean, we're pretty much making ourselves miserable, like, in an effort, like, to try to make the most unhappy amongst us happy. And a lot of people aren't gonna be happy. Like there's a lot of people that are just disenfranchised and malcontents as is, and to get anything done doesn't require like trying to make everybody um happy in 2025. I mean, these are really tough times we're entering into. And wow, I got 37 people. There was 60 people at one point. Thanks, man. Like really wish everybody would comment far more, but and I'm hoping you guys aren't bots. But thank you guys for coming and listening to me babble. I mean, like I'm not gonna front like one iota. This does mean a lot to me. Like I've been saying that I've been fighting the algo for many years. The YouTube does not like so-called minority from the hood, that has somewhat conservative perspectives. It's not it's something that I think is frowned upon on this platform, and it's been hell like trying to get like a subscriber or a any sort of views. And I've seen a lot of channels in that same predicament as me. I'm actually gonna have one on my channel, Sam Worthington. According to Sam is the name of his channel. If you guys please could go subscribe to him. According the number two Sam, and where they're on this platform and they may cover certain stories that the algorithm doesn't like, and it just laces your channel with a bad distinction in perpetuity. And I think I'm one of those channels. I don't know which, I like, and again, I'm not that kind on maybe Rainbow Talk or who knows, but the fact that people have been coming to my channel of late, even though it hasn't really lifted my subscriber numbers, it's a miracle to me at least. And I'm very, very humbled by it too. It's the Father's Day gift that I'm probably not gonna get later on today. But I do thank you guys. But if I want to close it, anything as far as political discourse in this country, especially, like we're not Germans, anybody should be able to talk about whatever the hell you want. And I'll keep it like this: Puerto Ricans, we gotta stop getting so butthurt. And this may apply to other minority communities, but do with that what you will. Puerto Ricans need to stop being so up in arms and wanting to fight people over politics, because a lot of times we just want to jump out like our own skin and tell somebody else we're wrong. Um, and it's kind of been the detriment of my people in a sense that we're constantly, especially when it comes to other Puerto Ricans, like we're constantly trying to tell other Puerto Ricans that we're wrong, and trying to get in other Puerto Ricans' faces. Again, this applies to other minorities that I've grown up with as well. I'm very observant of how my people behave. And politically, I don't know how the hell we became vested or tied up with liberals when they don't. I mean, we lived in liberal communities throughout this country our whole lives. Went to liberal schools. We bitch about politics when we've only had liberal politicians overseeing Puerto Ricans and other minority communities throughout this country. This applies to everybody. We've only went to court systems where the judges were voting liberal. Whenever you got thrown under the jail in the 90s, that was a liberal judge in California. That was a liberal judge in New York that was sentencing your granddad to 30 years or 20 years for these drug cases, or liberal politicians like Joe Biden that put stuff like that into effect. DC hates Trump. Yeah, I don't know. Do you live in DC, Benja? And I mean, yeah, my expectation. DC does hate Trump though, because a lot of government employees, and government employees are usually the biggest liberals. U.S. government employees are the biggest liberals. But my anticipation was that there was going to be a high level of counter protest in DC, and that wasn't the case. Let me see. You're a damn fool, buddy. You seem to forget Reagan's war on drugs. Get your history correct before you come in here spitting lies that don't match with reality. Well, we could go beyond the Reagan's war on drug, which I mean, we both may find to be unjust. And fast forward a few years later, where you had Joe Biden, who was a senator during the Reagan era, who then put the Joe Biden crime bill, which probably put more people to jail for the selling of Reagan drugs. I mean, Joe Biden is the highest vote getter in the history of U.S. elections, and he was being sold as the grandfather of liberalism in this country in 2020, even though his voting record, his policies don't suggest any of that. Um, but the and again, I've also lived in D.C. too, and so I mean the showing of anti-protesters wasn't that large. Going back to your original point, yeah, I'm on the Maryland D.C. line. There were more protesters than parade watchers. I mean, it didn't seem like the parade was something that was. Um, I don't know how the parade flowed out, like as far as bringing people in, like to observe, what the rules were, like if they were allowing just anybody up in there because of the lunatic liberal left. They didn't want them, showing up and causing a ruckus. So I don't know how, as far as what they were doing for attendees. In fact, I didn't see much in the way of attendees because I was watching the Met game in addition to watching the parade, in addition to watching No Kings protest on YouTube. So I don't know, I don't even think I saw like where they had the mass of people gathered. But I lived in Arlington, I've lived in DC, Southwest, the as well. So and I know how like things played out, but you also have to admit, should you live on the DC Maryland line, that there weren't a large gathering of protesters, unless you want to front and act like things aren't what they are. But if you live in the DC area, 90% of the people are in DC are out and out liberal as hell. As far as the day-to-day people, the people that work in government, all of them, 90% of them are liberal in DC. My expectation was that a lot of the numbers that were texting unsolicited were DC numbers, and I was thinking that they were going to draw upon a large liberal base to cock block the parade, being that they was in the same city. And when Trump got inaugurated in 2016, they had a women's parade similar to this, too, unsolicited text in DC, and it was sort of like a women's parade, but kind of had a flair of anti-Trump protest as well. And that one drew a lot better than this No Kings protest. There's no Kings protest again. Mostly white liberals and feminized college kids. But that talk, as far as anti-Trump, 24/7, it's getting played out. It's getting played out, and I'm telling you from the perspective of to hell with DC, because I'm not from DC. I lived there for 1 year, but as far as New York City, Brooklyn through and through, I only congregate and talk to Brooklyn hood motherfuckers. Like they're on anti-liberal talk in 2025, and more people are joining the ranks. Believe me, like there aren't more, and they're not gonna convert back to, liberal voting, if you will, um, ever. I'll tell you frankly. But let me see. A bunch of tanks from the Soviet era. Yeah, I'm on the Marathon. The Mets just smashed the Nats. That was sad. Yeah, but we lost 2 games in a row. Bro, every major road, New Hampshire Avenue, New York, the Beltway got shut down by protesters. That's not a hard feat though, as far as like shutting down any road out there. And you said Route One. Route One is very, very easy to shut down because all you'd have to do is go right outside of DC, going into Arlington, and set up 100 people could shut down Route One. And any I don't want to say exactly how, but if you're from DC, you know Route One. could get shut down very easy. And every major road, New Hampshire Avenue, University Boulevard, that might be. I'm not 100% familiar with New Hampshire and University, but very easy to shut down DC as far as roadways go. Trump slept through his own parade. I would too. The parade was look gangster though. If you think it's getting played out, then you lost your free mind already, and that's the problem. You want to live like a Soviet era human? Go ahead, silly. Yeah, I mean, but I at least I allow conversations. The liberal left will basically tell you don't talk to that person because he's one of those Trump people. Don't talk to that person because that's Fox News. Oh, of course he's gonna get that. Like, oh, that's a New York Post article. Like, then I can't read it. I think conservatives like aren't out there with their politics as much as hyper liberals are. Like, and are far more open in terms of their discourse. Like, for instance, like with this conflict happening in the Middle East, there's conservatives that, by and large, support Israel, and there's a lot of conservatives that are anti-supporting of Israel. You know, and I'm not taking a side either way. I mean, I do have a side, but I'm not gonna put it out there. But if you were talking amongst liberals, let's say, and you were like, it would. I'm not saying that this would play out exactly, but I wouldn't discount, or I wouldn't be surprised that a liberal that who's not supportive of, like, let's say, the Free Palestine movement would get discarded by their liberal friends and peers because of their politics in regards to that issue, because their politics in regards to maybe immigration and deportations. Like, if you don't align with any of these things in terms of with liberals, they just don't want to listen to you, or they don't want to talk to you. They'll disenfranchise you, disown you. Conservatives are more pliable. And you have also baked into the cake in this country. One of the things I wanted to talk about is that left-wing political violence is dismissed, and a lot of times it's dismissed because people rationalize it with, well, you know, they don't like Trump because he's racist, and people will just run with that blanket statement and fill in the blanks, and it's just allowed. Like, maybe they think anything is allowed, like, on the basis of, like, well, I don't know, and like most, like, the extreme liberal views are, if they get out of hand, it's almost like okay and rationalized in the media. Like when the riots in Los Angeles were happening, they were saying that it was fiery, but it was mostly peaceful. Like, I mean, it's fiery because there's cars on fire. I mean, so that's not like peaceful. Um, Whereas, like, for 2 years, I remember hearing reels and reels about like how bad January 6th was, and I mean, that's like the one instance of like conservative violence, like, if you will, like, that people could refer to, and that happened like years ago. I mean, almost 4 years ago. But they lionized that one particular day, and at the end of the day, like, I mean, like, what you see in these protests, um, far more level of damage, uh, violent epithets like yelled out, like, I don't know, and it's almost like standard. I mean, like, standard. Like, if I were to again like walk around New York City with a MAGA hat, like, not that I would do some shit like that, but if some violence were to play out against me, I mean, nobody would say I didn't see that coming. You know, you could walk around like Mississippi with a Joe Biden shirt, and it would probably be covered as some sort of hate crime type thing if somebody were to attack you on the basis of you wearing a Kamala shirt, let's say. Or if you just happen to be wearing a Kamala shirt in a southern town and something bad were to happen to you, I could totally see news stories for 2 weeks that would cover just that. So it's almost baked into the cake of American politics and politics throughout the world that causes that liberals appreciate when they do get violent are usually covered up. Like migrants, for instance, when migrants, again, liberals are pro having many migrants enter into the country, but during the Joe Biden administration, when massive amounts of migrants were allowed into America, when you had crimes committed by migrants in cities like mine, New York City, they were underreported to say the least, and a lot of instances of kids being done really dirty in a SA fashion, um, violence that would happen as far as, some of these kids that were allowed into high schools saying that they were of younger ages than they actually were, or just being seasoned, rough individuals in their country and entering into a high school at 16, 17 years old in America with kids that are like 13 and fairly innocent, and you know cause problems in our school systems, to put it lightly. But a lot of times when instances like that would become newsworthy, they aren't covered in the news because of the fact, I believe, that they're things that would make liberal politics look bad momentarily. And that's standard practice. Like, I mean, that shouldn't be a policy that the media, goes into over reporting because it's Trump and under reporting because it's something that may look Trump endearing. Like, that's BS, and it's almost accepted for liberals. But again, that's too dangerous for a Latino, like according to liberals, a Latinx according to liberals like myself, to be existing in this dangerous world like liberals make it seem, and be underinformed like liberals want me to be. Like liberals, like if you left it to them, like they want you to be highly censored, which is the biggest uh, enemy to the American people. Censorship. Anybody being censored is a travesty. Liberals are the biggest uh, censorers going. I mean, hate speech should not be censored. You know, sorry. You want to talk about Puerto Ricans, in spite of the fact that I'm Puerto Rican, feel free. It shows more who you are rather than who I am. So, I mean, like, I rather my racism be out in the open than behind closed doors. Whereas liberals, I expect them at times to be racist behind closed doors. And who you are behind closed doors is up to you, including whether you're a racist. But liberals will try to front like they're not racist in their politics. Meanwhile, I've lived amongst New York liberals my whole life, and I mean, they don't want squat to do with minorities. Zero. They don't want to see you in front of their buildings in New York City. They don't want to deal with you. When they call the cops on you, they rationalize it and they say, well, I'm not, my politics aren't like that, but this guy was just out of hand. And that stuff started happening maybe a little bit less because liberals had the wherewithal and capability to leave New York in the summer, like the gentrifiers that moved in the last 10 years. But they also had to live in a cognitive dissonance world too, in which they see a lot of shit and are supposed to ignore it or dismiss it. But I can't make myself uh, to play by those same rules. I call shit as I see it. You heard? Let me see. I got more comments. Thank you guys for commenting. Making yourself the victim. Here's a play on the smallest violin. I'm not a victim. I thought conservatives weren't racist, but now it's at least that they are open about it. You're a bad joke. I don't know how you're being racist. Most of the shit I've been talking about people on this stream have been about pasty white liberals. The biggest identity politic players in the world and the country throughout are pasty white liberals who play identity politics more than anybody. Let me discuss the Minnesota shooting that took place, the political violence that the liberals were trying to frame as if it was some sort of conservative that had done this. It was sus. I love hearing about shootings like minutes after they happen. Now I don't like hearing about shootings. Like rest in peace to the people that perished. But I like to follow them as they happen because the stories change, and there may be innocent reasons as to why they change, like the stories that is. But sometimes I do sense funkiness, and a lot of people smell a little funkiness with the shooting. Um, like the pictures of the guy who did the story of how it played out is very funky. I mean, if you guys, I don't want to give a description of what played out, um, but it just seemed really off. Like the weight discrepancies, the fact how he completed the shooting wearing that bald mask. Um, he basically fooled police officers into um, believing that he was a fellow police officer. I don't know. It just every part about it seems sus. The lady that was shot was a political speaker of the Minnesota House at one point, and she had voted against giving liberal health care to immigrants in contrast to her Democratic peers. I think she was the one vote that defected and made it possible for the Minnesota version of healthcare wouldn't be legal to distribute to minorities. I mean, migrants that were entering into the nation or into the state of Minnesota. So, and the guy who completed this, I mean, he's 57 years old, um, but he also was politically appointed in two different administrations, the last of which being the Tim Walz administration. I don't know what political position he received. I mean, it didn't seem like it was a big position, but this doesn't seem like the type of guy that would commit violence on a liberal politician or a Democratic politician when he himself was appointed by the man's man of the of American liberals a couple months ago, Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota. That's the man's man of liberals. But he was appointed by Tim Walz, the person who committed this political hit, and um, I don't know. It just strikes me as like there's very odd things about all of this stuff. That lady who was whose life was ended was at a political function with Senator Klobuchar and other Minnesota political bigwigs. So for this to happen like hours after, I don't know. And one thing too, I mean, it's all being framed. I see on Facebook people debating this and saying that the people that showed up to the counter No Kings protest in Minnesota were stoking violence because of the political violence that had played out in that state by way of this hit that happened yesterday, and making it seem as if it's somehow attributed to conservatives somehow, like totally dismissing the fact that this person, by all intents and purposes, seems as if he's um, liberal, to put it plainly. But we'll see how things play out. The biggest suspect thing of all this is that this person is still on the loose. I mean, he hasn't been caught yet. So I don't know. Very, very funky. Funky indeed, my friends. Um, let me talk about this. The Middle Eastern country that can't be mentioned, if you will. These are the footage of the conflict happening in Iran and Iraq. They showed a video of a missile yesterday, and it was kind of like lingering in the air like this, and then it took a rapid descension down onto like a building. but it seemed like it turned in the sky. It was like bugged out. Let me see if this is one of them. I think you're making shit up like other people. Let me see. I think you're making shit up like people who support the piece of shit in the Oval Office. I don't. Maybe exactly what you think I was making up. You also said Trump is stupid. I mean, could be. Not everybody's smart. There's many. Like Joe Biden, I consider a very stupid man. Kamala Harris, consider very stupid. The not many liberal politicians, if one that I think votes in as far as voting records go, are not stupid, being that they all vote in one chunk or one block. None of them break ranks as far as voting goes. Some more missile strikes. Man, the kittens didn't come down this whole time. Yeah, I don't know what country this missile landed in. Yeah, my back is killing me, peoples. That's the well, I'll show you this kitten, Glory. She's also she's a stray too, but she never got acclimated to how that like to being pet. Sometimes she lets me pet her. Glory. God, my back is killing me. Anyways, people, I've been on for an hour. Sorry I couldn't show any kittens. If you guys don't know, I help fix stray cats, and we just caught two kittens in my backyard on Friday, I think. But they'll make a cameo on my next stream. Should something happen today, I don't think it's gonna happen. My back's killing me. Hope you guys, to all the dads out there, happy Father's Day. If your dads are still with us, do wish them happy Father's Day. Hopefully, you guys are on speaking terms, and if not, maybe give them the gift of reinitiating conversation with your dad. Should he? But my wish to all you dads out there is happy Father's Day, and uh, tip of the hat to those of you who are great dads. Many of you I know are. With that, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend and rest of your Sunday. Thank you for stepping into the File Play Line with me. Do help me by like, sharing, subscribing, and coming back here and commenting. Even those that don't disagree. I mean, that those that don't agree with. I'd rather you comment more than people that agree with me. With that, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. I'm out. Peace.